All right, today we're going to start lesson 2 of unit 3, and it's going to be over the distributive property. First, we have to talk about some other math properties that are important in math. The first one we're going to talk about is the commutative property. There is a commutative property of addition and a commutative property of multiplication. So jumping down to our fill in the blanks, the commutative property of addition and multiplication states that if all operations are addition or all operations are multiplication, the order does not matter. So moving back up here to our little bubbles, you'll see that 5 plus 1 is 6 and 1 plus 5 is also 6. So it doesn't matter the order that you add them in, it gives you the same thing. And then jumping over to the multiplication one, it's the same. 7 times 2 is 14. And changing the order, 2 times 7 is also still 14. So the commutative property of addition and multiplication states that the order does not matter. It gives you the same answer. Moving down to the associative property. The associative property of addition and multiplication states that if all operations are addition or all operations are multiplication, the way the values are grouped does not matter. So again, jumping up here into my bubbles, you'll see in the first one I have 2 plus, and then in a parentheses I have 3 plus 4 equals, and then if you look at the other side, you'll notice that the parentheses has moved over. So now 2 plus 3 is in parentheses plus 4. It still doesn't change the totals. So looking at this, order of operations says I would do what's in the parentheses first. 3 plus 4 is 7. Bring down what I haven't used, which is plus 2. 7 plus 2 is 9. Doing the other side, do what's in the parentheses first. 2 plus 3 is 5. Bring down the plus 4, and 5 plus 4 is still 9. So the order of their grouping does not matter because it still gives you the same total. The same applies for multiplication. So over here, we would do 4 times 5 because that's in the parentheses. So 4 times 5 is 20. Bring down the times and the 3. 3 times 20 is 60. On the other side, 3 times 4 would be what we do first because that's in the parentheses, that's 12. And 12 times 5 is 60. So order did not matter on those. It still gave you the same product. So the associative property says that the values doesn't matter how they're grouped. Flip it over to the back of that page, we have a couple properties. The additive identity property states that the sum is the word for addition. So the sum of a number and 0 is the same number. So it does not matter what number I add. If I'm adding 0, it's always going to be the same number. So for example, up top, 9 plus 0 is still 9. The multiplicative identity property states that the product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So the product of a number and 1 is the same number. So once again, for multiplication, it does not matter what the number is. If I multiply it by 1, it is just the same number that I started with. So if I take 856 times 1, still 856. Moving down, we have the multiplicative property of 0. The multiplicative property of 0 states that the product, again, that's the answer to a multiplication problem, the product of a number and 0 is always 0. So it absolutely does not matter what the number is. If I multiply it by 0, I'm always going to get 0. So 4 times 0 is 0. 256 times 0 is 0. 1 billion times 0, still 0. And then the big property that we're going to talk about today is called the distributive property. The distributive property states that to multiply a sum or a difference, remember, sum is the answer to an addition problem and difference is the answer to a subtraction problem, by a number, you multiply each term inside the parentheses by the number in front of the parentheses. Okay, go ahead and turn the page and we're going to talk some more about the distributive property. We are not doing this section on the top, so look down to the next one where it says simplify each expression using the distributive property. Now, we can double check number 1 to see what we should get when we do it. So if we're doing order of operations on this, I would do 2 plus 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. And then this is 5 times 6, which should give me 30. So when I get done, my answer, no matter how I do it, should be 30. So now we're going to use the distributive property to show you how to do it. The distributive property, we're going to use the box method. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw a nice little rectangle. Now looking inside the parentheses, I have one term and another term. So 2 terms means 2 boxes. So I'm going to separate that. So now I have 2 boxes. Now, the number in front of the parentheses goes in front of my boxes. The first term goes above the first box, and the operation sign plus the second term goes above my second box. So I'm going to use these numbers to put them around the boxes. 5 is in front of the parentheses. 5 goes in front of the first box. 2 is the first term, so 2 goes above the first box. And above the second box, I put the term and I put the operation sign. This tells me that it's a positive 4. If it had a negative sign, then it would be representing a negative 4. Now, we have to figure out what goes inside the parentheses. And to find what goes inside the parentheses, you simply multiply. So for my first box, I take 5 and I multiply it by 2. 5 times 2 is 10, so 10 goes in my first box. Multiplying to get what goes inside the second box, it's 5 times a positive 4. A positive 4 times a positive means my answer is going to be a positive, so I'm going to put a plus, and then 5 times 4 is 20. Now, the very last thing that I have to do is, on this one, I actually have to go ahead and add those. So 10 plus 20 gives me 30, which we already said we should be getting. So that's how it works. Now, let's work on it with some variables involved. This is going to be more indicative of the kind of problems that you have in your assignment. So once again, we're looking inside the parentheses, and I see that I have 2 terms. So 2 terms, 2 boxes. Make that a little wider. Okay, so I have my, I have my 2 boxes. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to fill what goes around the boxes. The number in front of the parentheses is the number that goes in front of the boxes. The first term in the parentheses is the first term above the first box. And then the second term with that operation sign goes above the second box. So plus 4 is like having a positive 4. Now we're going to multiply to get what goes inside the boxes. This one, a lot of you have not done. 5 times x is just 5x. So a number times a variable is that number variables. So 5 times x gives me 5x's. And now I'm going to do 5 times a positive 4. 5 times a positive 4 is 20, and it's positive 20, so I'm going to put a plus sign there. And then now off to the side, I'm going to write the expression that I got when I distributed. I got 5x plus 20, and that is my answer. Let's do a couple more examples. Here we go. I have 4 times, and then in a parentheses I have x minus 21. 2 terms in the parentheses, so 2 boxes. There's my 2 boxes. I need a number in front, a number above, and a number above. Remember, that's how we're kind of splitting it. So the number in front of the parentheses is 4, so the number in front of my boxes is 4. The term that's first in my parentheses is x, so x is what goes above the first box. And then the sign and the number go above the second box. So a negative 21 or a minus 21 goes up here. Now we need to multiply to see what is going inside of our boxes. So first we're going to do 4 times x, and 4 times x, remember, is just 4x. It's the number times the variable. That's how many variables I get. So 4 times x is 4 x's. Now I'm going to take the number in front and I'm going to multiply it above, I'm going to multiply it by the number above the other term. So a minus 21, so plug it into your calculator if you'd like. 4 times a negative 21 is a negative 84. And then off to the side, I'm going to write the expression that I get, 4x minus 84, and I am done. Notice that I am leaving these 2 terms alone afterwards. They cannot combine. They are not like terms, which we'll do in the next section. So they stay just like that, and you write the expression 4x minus 84 is your answer. Okay, one more together. Looking to start my boxes, I see 2 terms inside the parentheses, so that means I'm going to do 2 boxes. Let's move you over a little bit. All right, the number in front of the parentheses, remember, goes in front of the boxes, so it's a negative 2, so a negative 2 goes there. The first term in the parentheses goes above the first box, so this one says 2x, so then I'm going to write 2x above this first box. The sign and the number go above the second box, so plus 12 is like a positive 12. That goes above the second box. All right, now we're going to multiply to get what goes inside of the boxes. A negative 2 times a positive 2x. When you have a number in front of the x, you're going to take the number times whatever the number was. So a negative 2 times a positive 2 is a negative 4. And then I keep my variable. So negative 2 times 2x is a negative 4x. Now I'm going to multiply what's in front by what's above the second box. A negative 2 times a positive 12. A negative times a positive is a negative. And 2 times 12 is 24. Now I'm going to write my expression off to the side. It is negative 4x minus 24, and that is my answer. All right, there are 4 problems underneath that I'd like you to try on your own. Go ahead and pause the video, try them, and then unpause the video. I did just realize that I did not tell you that I was changing some of them. Hopefully you kind of changed them along with me. Sorry, I kind of slipped my mind since I'm doing this at home and you guys are at home too. So notice that I did change some of them. Go ahead and change those ones in your notes too. All right, so for the first y, hopefully you changed it. 5 times x minus 3. So you should have done 2 boxes because there are 2 terms inside the parentheses, so 2 boxes. and then a number in front, a number above each one of them. Separating this, 5 should go in front of the boxes, X goes above the first box, and then remember I take the sign and the number, so a -3 is my -3. Now I'm going to multiply to get what goes inside my boxes. 5 times X, 5X. 5 times the -3 is a -15. Write my expression off to the side. 5X minus 15, and that is my answer. Next one is 8 times X plus 7. 2 terms inside my parentheses. So 2 boxes when I draw. So 2 boxes. A number in front of the box, a number above and above. The number in front of the parentheses is the number that is in front of my boxes, so 8. Remember to split that up by its terms. The first term goes above the first box. The plus 7 goes above my second box, so that is a positive 7. I'm going to multiply to get what goes inside. 8 times X is 8X. 8 times a positive 7. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. 8 times a positive 7 is a positive 56. So I write my expression off to the side. 8X plus 56. And now I'm done. Last 2 on this page. Here we go. 2 terms inside the parentheses, so 2 boxes. Maybe. There we go. 2 boxes. And now remember I need a number in front, a number above, and a number above. Split this. Woo! Split this. So the number in front of the parentheses is the number that goes in front of the boxes. That's a -3. The first term is what goes above the first box. So 4X is 4X. And a -8 goes above the second box, which makes it a -8. -3 times a positive 4 is a -12, and we keep the variable X. So -3 times 4X is -12X. A -3 times a -8, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 3 times 8 is a positive 24. Writing my expression off to the side, -12X plus 24. Last one. -6 times, in a parentheses, 2X plus 5. First thing I'm going to do, 2 terms in the parentheses, so I'm going to draw 2 boxes. And remember I need a term in front, a term above, and a term above. So splitting up what's the parentheses like that. Now, -6 is in front of the parentheses, so -6 goes in front of the boxes. 2X is my first term, so 2X goes above the first box. Plus 5 goes above the second box as a positive 5. Now we're going to multiply. Negative times a positive means my answer is a negative, and 6 times 2X is 12X. So a -6 times a positive 2X is a -12X. -6 times a positive 5, a negative times a positive is a negative, and 6 times 5 is 30. Writing your expression off to the side, -12X minus 30. All right, go ahead and turn it to the next page. Okay, on our last page of notes, we're going to continue working on the distributive property, and this time we are using some fractions. Now, do not be panicked, because the fractions you can just do on your calculator if you're not sure. It won't be very difficult, I promise. So, same thing as before. Looking at my parentheses, there are 2 terms in the parentheses, so that means I draw 2 boxes. There it goes. All right, I need a number in front, a number above, and a number above. Splitting my terms inside, looks just like that. Okay, now we still have a number in front of the parentheses. This time it just happens that it's a fraction. No worries. So 1/2 is my fraction. X is the first term in my parentheses, so X goes above the first box. Plus 8 is my second term, so positive 8 goes above my second box. Now I'm going to multiply these. So same thing as before, I take the number in front and I multiply it times what's above the first box. 1/2 times X is just 1/2 X. And now 1/2 times a positive 8, you can punch it into your calculator, put in 1/2 as the fraction times 8, or you could even say half of 8. What's half of 8? Well, it's 4. And because it's a positive, it's a positive 4. And then now we just write the expression. So 1/2 X plus 4 is my expression. Not so bad. I know fractions are still a little intimidating. Okay, let's do another one. And notice I did change this one. It said -6. I changed it so that it says -8. So looking inside the parentheses, there are 2 terms inside the parentheses. So that means 2 boxes. Hate when it doesn't auto grab that shape for me. There we go. All right, so I need a number in front, a number above, and a number above. Remember, we are splitting the terms in my parentheses just like that. We're going to do 1/4 is the number in front of the parentheses, so that's the number in front of my boxes. 4x is the first term, so 4x goes above the first box. And -8 is like a -8, and that goes above my second box. Okay, now we're going to multiply. 1/4 times 4x. Remember, we take the number times the number. So 1/4 times 4. You can go ahead and do that on your calculator if you'd like. Put in 1/4 as the fraction times 4, hit equals, and it should give you that it is just 1. So you could write 1x. And now you need to do 1/4 times the -8. So again, you can punch it in your calculator, do 1/4 as the fraction times -8 on your calculator. A negative times a positive is a negative, and 1/4 times 8 should give you a -2. So writing my expression off to the side, I have 1x minus 2. There are 2 more in that section. Go ahead and try to do those 2 on your own. So pause the video, work through the problems. When you're finished, unpause the video and compare your work to mine. All right, now that you've gotten them done, let's go ahead and go over them together. 2 terms in the parentheses, so 2 boxes. Remember, we need a number in front, a number above, and a number above. So here we go. 3/4 is in front of the parentheses, so 3/4 goes in front of the boxes. My first term in the parentheses is 4x, so the term above the first box is 4x. And then -32 is what I'm left with, so that goes above the second box. So -32 acts like a -32. And now we're going to go ahead and multiply to get what goes inside of the boxes. 3/4 times 4x. Remember, we do the number times the number. So in your calculator, you can do 3/4 times 4. 3/4 times 4 should leave you with 3. And then we keep the variable. So 3/4 times 4x should leave you with 3x. Now I'm going to do 3/4 times a -32, and you can go ahead and just punch it into your calculator. 3/4 as a fraction times 32, and it's a negative 32, so you would put in 3/4 times negative 32, and it should tell you that it is a negative 24. Oops, sorry, guys. So, writing your final expression, it is 3x minus 24, and that is your answer. Last one in this section, negative 1/3 times, and then in a parentheses, 15x plus 27. Two terms in the parentheses, so two boxes. Remember, we need a number in front of each, or in front of the boxes, and one above each box. Negative 1/3 is in front, so negative 1/3 goes in front down here. 15x goes above the first box. That's where I'm dividing. So plus 27 or positive 27 goes above the second box. Now we're going to need to multiply to get our products that go inside. This is a negative 1/3. So to find out what goes inside the first box, I need to take the number times the number and then keep the variable. So a negative 1/3 times a positive 15x, punch it in your calculator, do negative 1/3 times 15. Your calculator should give you a negative 5, and then we keep our variables. So it's a negative 5x. And then we are going to do the next one. So it is a negative 1/3 times a positive 27. So once again, you're going to put it in your calculator. Negative 1/3 times a positive 27. And your calculator should give you a negative 9. And then the very last thing to do is just to rewrite your expression. So it is a negative 5x minus 9. All right, there are some word problems on this page. There are no word problems on your assignment, so we're actually just going to do one of them. Blakely and 3 friends go to the movies. If each person spends $8 on a ticket plus $5.50 on snacks, use the distributive property to determine how much they spent all together. So first we need to write an expression for this. Blakely and 3 friends. So if it is Blakely and 3 of their friends, that would be 4 people total. So 4 is what goes in front of the parentheses. Now, each person is spending the same amount of money on things. So they spend $8 on a ticket, plus they spend $5.50 on snacks. So there's my expression. And now we're going to use the distributive property to find out how much they all spent together. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look and I'm going to see that there are 2 terms inside my parentheses. So that means I draw 2 boxes. A number in front of the box, a number above the first box, and a number above the second box. 4 is in front of the parentheses, so 4 goes in front of the boxes. 8 is the first term, so 8 goes above the first box. And plus 550 is what I'm left with, so I'm going to do a positive 550 above the second box. Now I'm going to multiply to get what goes inside. 8 times 4 is 32. And then 4 times $5.50 is a positive 22. And then I can rewrite it, 32 plus 22. And this one I can actually go ahead and add. So 32 plus 22 is 54. So then you should write something like they spent $54 all together. Now, me personally, I probably, if I was given this problem, would not have used the distributive property on this. I would have actually just done what's in the parentheses. I would have done 8 plus $5.50. I would have got $13.50. And then I would have taken that times 4 and I would have gotten 54. but they just wanted to give you an example of how you could use the distributive property in a word problem. There aren't any like this on your homework though. And we're actually not doing the rest of the word problems, so we are completely done with notes. Yay!